And, all right, looks like we are live. Everybody, welcome to the Hard Reset Podcast, episode number 2. To everybody who followed us on Spotify and already downloaded the first episode, thank you so much. Um, that was a lot of fun. And, this is a bit of an experiment to do a podcast, but do it live. And then, so this is really fun
Yeah.
for us. Crystal, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Excited to talk about today. It's a good topic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, we've been doing some amazing work with our Sober October challenge, and a lot of people have been showing some promising uh, promise, I guess, in terms of their recovery. So, for this episode, everybody, we wanted to focus on something very, very important that means a lot to both Crystal and I. As you know, that we are also recovered former alcohol dependent people. And one thing that I hear consistently, and Crystal, correct me if I'm wrong, as you're a coach as well, that the fear of, and there are several things that we're going to touch on, but most importantly, the fear of what it's like to make this change. I remember that, I spent a good 5 years of my life um, wanting to quit, trying to quit, half-assing it pretty much. But, at the end of the day, it was always a fear, whether it was fear of missing out. What will I do with my time? What am I going to do after I get home? All of these things. At the end of the day, each and every one of them is a fear. And if I didn't have anyone who could show me that, hey, this is how you overcome this fear, and it's just a matter of time before things change. And what I realized that it is this fear that keeps us deeply rooted in the place that we're in life, right? So for everyone that is watching us today, um, and especially if you're someone that has been trying to or is aware that, okay, my drinking is getting a little bit out of control and we need to do something about this, what thoughts come to your mind immediately? Right, Crystal?
Right. Right.
Like the moment you think that, okay, today is the last day and now
What was
moving
that for
forward.
you? Like, what was your number one fear?
My number one fear was the fear of missing out. My entire identity, my entire life that I had built for myself, who Hamza Najam was to me at that time was a promoter, event planner. That was my life. If I stopped drinking, if I changed my life, then I knew that I would have to change my friends too. And just everything I knew was in that frame of I drink and I drink a lot, and that's what all my friends do, and that's just a way of life that I know of. So, like it's just impossible. Like my brain would just like how you swipe left or right on Tinder, right?
Hmm.
So my brain would just swipe left on that thought immediately. Like, no, 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 that's not, we're not doing that. But the end result was I'm just still sitting here with a beer in my hand thinking of when I'm gonna quit. Right. So
Hmm.
Crystal, what was it like for you? What was your biggest fear?
I wouldn't say like, I mean, the fear of missing out is kind of the same, but mine was like everything I did was associated with it. So I was afraid I was never going to be able to do the things I enjoyed doing anymore. Like, I mean, literally everything: golfing, fishing, going snowboarding. I even have beers in my pockets going snowboarding. Like, everything I did associated. So I was like, I'm never going to be able to do anything fun again. My fun in my life is over. So that was my number one fear.
Well, I relate to that so much because, again, a lot of people that are in our community as well, having fun. How will I have fun? I mean, I have a whole list here. The number one fear is the fear of missing out. And we're going to give solutions to how to overcome all of these in the later part of this episode. But fear of missing out. So what is that? Fear of missing out is, again, what we touched on. What will I do with my friends? What will I do for fun? What will I do when I go out? Will I go out? Like, because the only thing you think of, like, okay, go out equals go to a bar, go to a party, go have a beer by yourself. Even I would sometimes, like I remember in university, I would make an excuse to go to a bar, find a quiet spot, and get a beer so that I could study. And now I'm realizing how stupid that was, because after alcohol is ingested in your brain, the capacity to retain information is gone. So
You
what am
lost
I
it. All that
studying?
studying was worthless.
Right? So fear of missing out, fear of changing, fear of becoming dull and boring. That's another one, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of people think that they're only fun because they drink, because they're able to let loose, and that if they stop, then who will they be? What will their life be like, right? Another one which I can relate to as well is the fear of being lonely, right? That's especially if you are single, right? Dating in today's world is a nightmare. First, and I experienced that. It was a complete nightmare. And I knew that every single time I have to go on a date, especially a first date, it's like $200 to $300 bill right there. Because I'll alone drink $100 worth of alcohol, depending on where I am. I get there early and have a couple of drinks just to calm my nerves down and all that stuff. So that's another fear, and that's a big one. That one will keep you deeply rooted, because what is one of our natural instincts?
It's to be in communion with other people, having
And to
relationships.
reproduce, right?
Oh yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
that's another natural human uh, natural requirement. That's what we naturally gravitate towards, reproduction. It's a thing. There's 9 billion of us now. So, so wanting to find someone to fall in love with and have a family with, it's all deeply rooted in most people, with at least with traditional upbringing, right? That's something that you would want. Fear of the unknown. You just don't know. Like, imagine you've been drinking for 20 years, 30 years, and suddenly now you have to stop. That is, how do you even start? Where do you even begin? I mean, Crystal, like, what's the first step people take when it's time to stop?
Yeah.
They go online, they do some research, they
Yeah.
look at, and the first thing they'll see is AA or some other group or something, and or some coach, or it's just, there's the fear of the unknown, but then it's also, that, okay, if I just follow these steps, then it won't be the unknown, but then that requires work, that requires actually learning
You
the
gotta
concept.
dig, right? You gotta, when you're ready to make this step, that's kind of like the unknown of what you're gonna pull out of yourself, because you gotta face some of that stuff you've been stuffing and the reason why you're drinking. So that's kind of, that could be part of that, being the fear of
Absolutely.
the unknown.
Absolutely. And, another fear is, again, we touched on this already, but what we'll do with our time, right? Like when you don't know, when everything you do outside of work and sleep is having a good time, then your neuroassociation with having a good time is always with alcohol. I remember that the first question on my mind when doing anything with my friends was, is there going to be booze there? Because if there's no booze, I'm not coming. Or do you have alcohol? Because I don't have any. That was the number one thing that I would think of. And I also remember every time I would get some invitations that, hey, let's go here, let's go there, or to that person's house, or this person's house, my mind would go, okay, where is the most likely place where I will get a lot of alcohol? That's where I want to go, right? Um, then comes the big one, my personal favorite fear, Crystal, and I feel like you will agree to this one, is the fear of how to deal with the emotions and the memories that we have been suppressing, the ones where brain swipes left automatically.
Yeah.
Those are the ones, because what happens, any person that has tried to stop drinking, in the first day, by the third day, they will have experienced the loudness of the thoughts and the emotions. And this time, there is no alcohol to numb that
No,
out.
man. You're
So it
alone with
hurts
those
more.
thoughts. Yep.
It hurts double, simply because alcohol isn't there anymore. Plus, all those feelings that are trying to surface each time you get the thought, it's the feeling trying to surface, it's trying to escape your body. We just make the mistake of, nope, I don't want to deal with this. Next. And it grows, it grows, and it grows, and it grows within us. And then we wonder, why do we feel this way? Why do we keep acting the same way? Well, because there's unresolved stuff. Then, of course, the fear of withdrawals. Anyone who's experienced the jitters, I had them. My hands would shake, especially after like a Thursday to Sunday fiesta. Yeah. And on the Monday, it's like hands are shaking like that, body is slow. That's a deep, deep fear. And then the social anxiety fear, right? I feel like that should be much higher on the list.
Yeah.
Because that's another fear where.
And you can tie that into the social anxiety with the lonely, because that fear of like, okay, so I quit drinking, and then am I going to lose my friends and be more lonely in those situations? Or am I going to be able to even be in a social situation? Totally go hand in hand,
Absolutely. You got that one bang on the head. These are all very deeply interlinked. And if you think about it, if someone is able to take a look at this whole list of fears and find a way to overcome it, then this is no longer just about alcohol. This is about ushering yourself into a completely new way of life where there is no
growing.
Yeah. And even if there is the fear, now you know exactly how to overcome it.
Yep.
I'm going to share a little secret with all of you guys. Okay. And I'm smiling because I feel dumb saying this, but whatever. It's a legitimate secret. What is the number one way to get over a fear? Any fear.
Face your fear.
Exactly. Exactly. We face the fear head on. And there's a book that I read about fear a while back. I forget its name. But in that, the way it explains, it's a neuroscience book. So it explains that, fear is basically your body trying to tell you, and this is the extremely dumbed down version, by the way. But fear is your body's way of telling you that this is what you should be doing, right? So the moment we feel fear, the way to overcome it is to just dive right into whatever it is, right? And you will notice that you will then practice that. Oh, I'm scared of sharks. Great. Let me go diving with some sharks, right? It's just that ideology that, okay, whenever you have a fear of anything.
And I have an example of that real quick.
Love to hear it.
Of flying. I was terrified of flying all my life. Terrified I'd have like panic attacks on it. And then while I was dating my husband, to try to impress him, he wanted to go skydiving. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm adventurous and I can do that. I totally went skydiving, and I can fly like I'm a pro now. I have zero fear.
Okay,
but so talk about jumping into your fear. Oh my gosh, it was crazy, but it works. It was truth. It's totally true what you're saying. You got to face it.
What you're so I have that fear too. I have a fear of heights.
Really?
Yeah. So
you gotta go skydiving.
I know, right? So I'm just gonna say it out loud, live, right here, right now, that in 2022 I am gonna go skydiving at some point. So we'll see when that happens. I'll do it live too.
When you come to Colorado,
live, jumping out of the sky. Yeah. All right, guys. So now let's get to the fun part. The reason why you guys are all here.
How do you get to the solution?
Yes, precisely. So the first fear that we talked about, the fear of missing out, right? So there is no quick fix to the fear of missing out, because the first thing that has to change is your mindset. What are you missing out on? Because based on the track record, it always ends badly for you, right? And you always have regrets afterwards. So really, what is it that you're missing out, right? And it also takes a shift in your perspective on how we look at alcohol, the role that it plays in our life. It comes from a place of acceptance and surrender that, okay, I have a problem and it needs to be solved and I can't fix it on my own. Once we have this moment and realize that, okay, it's a problem and it's a real one and I have to do something about it, that makes it easy to say no to these social situations of when you're like, oh, but these guys are going to have so much fun. Man, it's fun for the first hour, but once you get your drink on, then it becomes a matter of, sure, yeah, you're having fun, and then you're moving away from the person that you were when you sat down to have the first one, right? And then by the end of the night, it's the same old thing all over again, and in the morning it's the same old regret all over again. So really and truly, what is it that you're missing?
And also, you are missing out by drinking, because I couldn't remember 90% of those events I went to that I got wasted, and I couldn't remember them. So truly, I was the one missing out while I was drinking, and now I can remember them.
Right.
So I'm
I love
actually not missing
remembering
out on
things.
anything.
I love being able to remember stuff and never have to worry about, oh, maybe I was drunk. Sorry, I don't,
Yeah.
like that's
Yeah.
gone. Another thing I wanted to point out in terms of the fear of missing out piece of it is there has to be a certain raising of your comfort level with your own self, right? So you have to be okay in your own skin. This is the time, especially in the first month of recovery. This is not the time for social activities. This is the time for healing and recovery,
Yep.
right? So this is where you can, at the hard reset, we teach how to build new habits, mindful habits, things like meditation, exercise, eating mindfully, all of these things. We teach this because the focus needs to go away from the problem and on to the solution, right? And the solution is, if you've got your standard 5 o'clock, get home by 6 and open the fridge and have some beers or pour your glass of wine. And if that is your routine, and if that is, or it's a standard situation where every night or every other night, you and your friends are getting together, going to a bar, spending a bunch of dollars and coming home late, waking up with very little sleep. And if that is the pattern, then really you're doing yourself a favor. Right. And it takes that realization to know that you're doing this for yourself. Oh, which brings me to the other main part, which is, when quitting drinking, you have to do it for yourself. It can't be for other people. It can't be for your wife. It can't be just because, people will think that you're cool, because
Right.
those are all superficial reasons. Those are all reasons that are, I mean, I don't mean to say that your wife is a superficial reason, but the point is, these are things that are rooted in the external world. They can change at any moment. What we, the internal world is the real one. So when we realize that I'm doing this for me, I need to do this to improve my life, the way things have been going, they are hurting me. Once we have this realization, getting over the first fear of missing out, it gets easier. I'm not saying that the fear will be gone forever, or I'm not saying that it will go right away, but it is something that will change over time.
It does.
Next, we have the fear of becoming dull and boring. So this comes from a place of, I mean, how do I explain this? There's a personality that we develop, right? We are a set of our habits, right? And we are a product of our external environment. So with that being said, every thought, every habit, every action that we take on a daily basis culminates into what we call our personality, right? And the real you is still there. It's not gone. What's happening is, based on the amount of alcohol you're consuming, it's literally lowering your vibration. The cells in your body are vibrating at a lower frequency. This is the science. And because of that, you feel that, okay, I'm low vibration, I'm dull, I'm boring, I'm not as fun. But over the course of 2 or 3 months, especially if you are putting in the real work of healing yourself, you have to understand that the dull and boring part, it lives here in your frontal lobe, right? Once it starts clearing up, once your brain fog starts lifting up, once your mood, hint,
And your
hint,
dopamine
and your
is being
dopamine,
produced more.
when these things improve, when these things have normalized, you will realize that the joy in simple things will return.
Yeah.
And you'll get used to going out and having fun without alcohol. But this connection has to happen. A neuroassociation needs to be created where you go out and have fun without consuming alcohol. And you have to repeat that over and over for the association to take place. You're not dull and you're not boring. It's not like that. You may feel like that in the beginning while your body is recovering, while your mind is recovering, but eventually you will realize that you are fucking fun. You are awesome. And it's not the alcohol that made you awesome, it's you. The
Yep.
awesomeness comes from you. Alcohol just amplifies it. Okay, whatever. Who gives a shit? It's so much better
And
for you.
sometimes it doesn't amplify it. Sometimes you think you're awesome and you're actually acting like a complete dumbass, and actually makes you, you know what I mean? People think, oh, I've got liquid courage, and really you're like, yeah, it doesn't
Yeah.
not looking
Liquid.
good on you, buddy.
Yeah. No, I know. I now I see the loud people in any room that have had one too many, and I'm like, you think you're fun right now, but you're not. You can't see the cringe on the other person's face.
Right.
Um, the next fear is fear of
Getting
being
lonely.
lonely, fear of being alone. Look, guys, this is a very straightforward, there's no sugarcoating this. If all of your friends and if everybody in your life drinks, and that they are if your neuro association is I see this person and it makes me want to drink. I had many people like that in my life, and not one of them exists as my friend today. Well, except for one. But the point is, again, going back to doing this for you. Self love and self care means putting yourself on a pedestal that's higher than everything else. And if you have tried to go out and in your early recovery, in the first week or two or three since you stopped drinking, and if you've tried to go out and then you have failed and ended up giving in to the urge and then ending up going on a full bender because of that one drink, and if you've tried this multiple times, then the answer is staring right at you in your face. You can't go out, man. You can't put yourself back in that exact same environment.
No.
It takes a long time for new neuroassociations to develop and strengthen to a point where you will become trigger proof. Until that point, you are putting yourself in danger. And if your friends can understand that you are doing this for you and you are just not going to be partaking in the festivities, and if they respect it, then that's a friend worth keeping. If you've got the moment you tell your friends that, okay, I'm doing something different now, so I won't be seeing you guys for a while unless you want to hang out with me sober. And if the answer is a unanimous, we'll see you in a month when you're back to drinking, these people are not your friends, man. They're thinking about themselves. They're
Yes.
thinking about what they get from your company. They're not thinking about what goes on in your head, what the cost that you have to pay to be in their company. They're not considering that. What they're considering is, oh, we lose one more person for game night. Fuck. Right? Like, we have to protect ourselves. No one is coming to save you. You have to take the steps yourself. And if that means you have to cut your friends out even for a bit, then just do it. And you will notice that you'll realize that you are actually a pretty awesome person to be around, and you'll start liking your company. And the second thing is, the most important thing, that it will open your eyes to show you who your real friends are. That one friend that I have, he is my true fucking brother, because this guy has been, he supported me. He makes sure that he doesn't drink when he's around me. He makes sure that whatever plans we make are going to the beach, hanging out at the park, like shit like that. And before, him and I, we became friends over shooting pool. What goes hand in hand with shooting pool? Drinking beer. And I am really good at pool. So we would play for hours and hours and hours, and we'd spend $200-300 on a night, just on a Tuesday night playing pool. Because what happens? First pitcher, second pitcher, third pitcher. Now it's time for shots. And now it's
And
2
you're
o'clock.
out running in the streets naked,
Right? So, guys, people will come and go. And most importantly, if you do the soul work, if you do the internal work and you raise your vibration, you bring yourself by hook or by crook, you bring yourself to a place in your life where you are feeling all the love, man, you will attract. You have to understand that every human being has a unique energy signature. That signature largely comes from the type of waves our brain is emitting. And there are different types of brain waves that get emitted based on the type of thoughts that we are having. And if we are more coherent in our thoughts, if our actions and intentions align, and if we are, thinking positively, if we are offering gratitude, if we are taking care of ourselves, it changes the energy signature that we're emitting. We can't see
Totally.
it, but people feel it.
Yep.
And since I got sober, and Crystal, you can speak to this as well, I have attracted exactly the kind of people that I want in my life. And there isn't too many of them, but it turns out I don't need that many people in my life. Not anymore.
Keeping your circle small.
Before I was seeking approval that, oh, I'm Mr. Party Guy, I'm Mr. Promoter. Everybody must know me. I must be surrounded by people all the time. Otherwise, I am a loser. That was my identity. That was deeply rooted in that sense of self. But yeah, Crystal, I'd love to hear about your thoughts on this one.
I love that, and this is my jam, the vibe talk, because have you ever heard that saying, your vibe attracts your tribe?
Yeah.
And it's totally true, because
Just heard it.
like that law of attraction, just now heard it. The law of attraction is totally real. Like looking at yourself as if you're a magnet, and what you emit, that's why that vibration of if you walk into a room, let's just say, a funeral, for instance, what do you feel when you walk in that funeral? And not just even just because you're sad. It's thick. It's like heavy, low vibration, and that's okay. It's low because grief is a very low frequency, a low vibration. Now you go to a wedding and everyone's celebrating and all of that. Usually you're feeling, it's a super high frequency and high vibration. So if you look at that as yourself, I believe alcohol creates this low vibration automatically, because mostly the next day, what do you feel when you wake up, when you're super hungover and you've drank
Low.
after?
Death.
And what else do you feel? You feel shame and you feel guilt, and those are extremely low. I have this
Low
chart, and
vibration
I'll post it
emotion.
on our group too. It's the vibration of emotion chart, so you can look kind of like at the scale, and this stuff can be measured. Like, it's not just woohoo stuff. It's actually can be scientifically measured through a biofeedback machine. You can measure the amount of frequency that's running through your body at all times, just like a radio wave. We can't hear or see the music waves, right? But we know they're there. There's actually a frequency going on. So
Depends on what you take, but yeah.
Yeah, true. You get those psychedelics going, and you're like, oh, I see colors now, so it's all good.
Yeah.
It's funny. But yes, that whole vibe thing, when you quit drinking, you're going to start noticing, I call them divine synchronicities in your life. You're going to start seeing things start happening. I think I noticed that with like all my sober friends and I don't have a ton of sober friends actually, but I keep my circle small as well. And back to when I quit drinking, we all partied together. So I totally anticipated losing all my friends, and I did lose quite a few. That's okay. It was just a time to move on, and a chapter of your book that needed to close. But those few that stayed with me, they're amazing. Like you said, like your friend that is like a brother now, because he stuck with you and he's not going to drink with you, and they care about your well-being just as you would care about their well-being. So
that's exactly it. Like, would he do the same for me? That's the question I asked, and 9 out of 10 didn't. Right? Yep. But the 1 out of 10 did, and that's all that matters. I'll share another story with you guys. This is the story of my first relapse and why I got into this mess in the first place. But in 2016, I was part of a group that was, and these are my best friends, and this is like since we were 14, we had the dream of, one becomes a DJ and I become the party promoter, and together we take over the world. That was our whole jam. And, we got successful. We were doing events. We did one event called Senseless that had thousands of people there, and it was just phenomenal. And we planned it for a whole year. Anyways, things were on the rise. but I was drinking a lot. And then people started to notice in the scene, they were like, oh, hey, your partner, he does drink a lot. And then my friends were like, man, like now that we're in the public eye, can you like keep this shit on the down low? And I'd always be like, yeah, I got it, don't worry. But then I'd always become sloppy and, whatever. And then one day, I went to a festival and, an accident happened there and I took something that I wasn't supposed to. I wasn't even aware of it, to be honest, in my defense. But who gives a shit about that now? But anyway, I passed out in front of people and it was all really bad. Pictures were taken, videos were taken. They circled in the circle. Everybody knew that, okay, this guy, the founder of this company that's doing these events, was gone. So naturally, my friends were like, okay, you can't be a part of this anymore. And unless you
Quit
drinking. So August 2016, all the way till April 2017, I white knuckled it. I threw probably 15 events in that time. I did the whole thing sober. I had people trying to shove alcohol down my throat just for fun because they were drunk, whatever. I went through the whole thing. And even after all of this, to me, and I was getting a lot of social recognition, a lot of social praise. I would make one post, get 100, 200 likes, people loving the fact that this guy is now sober. And I rode with it. I went with it. And then I became the sober promoter. Then it became a hashtag. However, at no point did I do this for myself. It was done exclusively so I could protect my identity, the promoter, the event promoter, right? And also my friends, because turns out that I valued my self-worth based on who I hang out with, right? And then as I got sober, things weren't changing. And I kept thinking, hey guys, I went sober for you and you guys are not giving me the recognition I deserve. And that was like happening in my head. Eventually, things didn't work out and we went our separate ways. I remember the day my friend came over, the same guy who I started this company with, and he came over to my house and he was crying and he wasn't doing well. And his wife was telling him that, listen, you need to cut this guy. He's too much of a problem, blah, blah, blah. But we've been best friends since we were 9 years old. That day, it hit me that, okay, just like that, I am no longer who I am. And just like that, it was gone. And in that moment, the urge to have a drink was so strong because I did not find a reason anymore to continue down this path. It made absolutely no sense to my brain to not drink again or to continue down this path, because what is the point, right? And this is the experience that I learned. The very next day, I went and I sat and I ordered a Guinness and I sat there in the sun. I waited like 10 minutes and then I had my first sip. Oh, what a great fucking sip. But after that same night, I fell back into the same pattern. After 9 months of no drinking, I had one beer. I called up my friend. They invited me over. Within 3 hours, an 8-ball of Coke was delivered. And then it was the same thing, railing lines up till 7 in the morning. And I came home, heart pumping, couldn't sleep. And the whole shit began all over again. And after that, I went through the worst relapse of my life and put on 50 pounds and did all that shit that went all the way till March 2020. I know what I'm talking about when it comes to the right reasons and why you need to do it for yourself. Because when shit hits the fan, not if, when you will be strong in your resolution of sticking to your guns because you're doing it for you and you are now suddenly the most important fucking thing, right?
Yep.
Man, that story brings up.
That's so good. I did not. That's amazing that you. I liked that you had a relapse too. I know that's weird to say.
I'm kind of glad I did. Yeah.
I'm really glad. Like sometimes I tell myself, I'm like, maybe I should have a relapse so I can experience that too. And I'm like, I won't live through it because I think I would go freaking crazy and I'll lose.
Man, it comes back double the force. It's like, I have been waiting for 9 months. Now it's finally my chance. Oh, the next fear.
Look what you learned. Like it's so awesome because what you learned from that and you took out of that, like you have to do it for you, not anybody else. And if you're not ready, it won't work. So you weren't really ready,
I
right? At
wasn't
that
ready.
time, you wanted to do it just for like superficial reasons, and then when you really realized what's important and that you did it for you, look at that. It's amazing. It's a
It
great
finally
story.
forced me to look at myself, and perhaps you just need to change who you are and stop blaming the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the next fear I wanted to touch on is the fear of the unknown. Guys, it's a very natural thing. All of us fear what we don't know. The best way to get over this fear is to get familiar with sobriety. Pick up a book, join a community, join not my community, our community.
Yes.
I wrote an ebook as well. There's so much literature. Please educate yourself. It's not that scary once you realize that it's only the first 10 days are the hardest. That's it. After that, it's a downward curve in difficulty. 30 days, if you can pass 30 days, then you're the master of your own destiny. Then you just have to make sure that you are putting in the work in creating that lifestyle that will support your alcohol free version of you, not the alcohol dependent version of you. Because right now, your whole life is calibrated to support the one thing that you do the most. That's how habits work.
Yeah.
That's how our nervous system works. That is what it's designed to do, right? So once we learn the science and learn that, okay, fear of the unknown goes away once it's no longer an unknown, right? So you have to, the best thing you can do if you don't know anything about how to get sober is join a community, connect with people who've done this, because that is what will change everything for you.
Yeah.
In terms of how you fear the unknown. The next one is the fear of social anxiety. This is a tough one, man. This is a tough one, Crystal. What do you have? What do you
I
suggest?
mean, it is a tough one because I still have social anxiety. I mean, that's a hard one because even I think people who don't drink too normally, social anxiety is. I've had that whether I drink or I don't drink. Even when I was drinking, I was like, I hated social events just personally. So it's hard for me to kind of give my input on it because I don't know how normal people like to go to. I'm like, please don't come into my house and party with me because I don't want to. I just want to be alone. So
Well,
I don't know. How do you feel about it?
so look, comes down to confidence, right? The social anxiety part comes from what will other people think of me
That's true.
situation, right?
Yes.
And if you can, like, part of my recovery was realizing all the shitty things I had done. And then I just aired all my dirty laundry in my ebook. And that set me free. That liberated the shit out of me to a point where now I don't even care. Right. And now what that's done is, or what that did immediately was, I know who I am and I know what I stand for. It's now almost 20 months into my recovery, but I know who I am. I know what I look like. I know what I wear. I know what the things I'll say. I know my sense of humor, and I'm confident in who I am. So naturally, that social, anxious,
And how do
jittery,
you think you got to that? Because you worked on yourself.
exactly,
Because you
right?
loved yourself. You loved yourself, and that's how you got
I
there.
Again, we keep coming down to the same thing. It's self-love and self-care, and I
Yep.
managed to just build myself up to a point where, before, when I was overweight, I hated the way I looked in the mirror. Now that's gone. Before, I hated the way I would spend all my money, and then I'd go on dates and be worried that, okay, if she orders another drink, then fuck, then I don't know if I can do whatever I have to do tomorrow. Like, it was on that level. So again, once you build yourself up, when you look in the mirror and you're like, damn, you're a good looking guy, there's no shame in that, right?
Mm-mm.
You get confident in your own ability, especially when you get the feedback from the world of, oh my god, you have changed. Oh wow, you've got a different energy. Your skin is so much better. You look so much happier. Okay. That's, then you start the social anxiety part. Again, guys, that comes with practice. I would say, my biggest thing was going on a first date and I couldn't not drink. And then I would turn off my first date because she'd be like, damn, you drink a lot. So, the only way to get over the fear of social anxiety, guys, is to go out and get uncomfortable, because at the end of the day you'll realize that, look, it's not so bad, people like you either way, right? And most of the fear, the most of the anxiety that we have is basically built up in our own head, right? So the next one is the the fear of what we will do with our time.
Yeah.
So guys, this one you have to look, you don't know what you don't know right now, right? So naturally the fear will be there. What's important to know is that there was a time when you didn't know something, and then a few days passed and then you learned something. The process of learning, neuroplasticity, it's a beautiful one. It exists in everybody. You can unlock it, you can engage it, and within 30, 60, 90-ish days, you can essentially create a whole new set of habits that you enjoy doing, right? So the main thing is, what will I do with my free time, or what will I do with my time, comes from a place of, well, I don't know anything else to do. I haven't done anything else with my free time in 20 fucking years, right? So in the beginning, it'll be tough. In the beginning, you'll have doubts, but practice creating new neural networks with creating new habits, habits that are mindful, habits that are helping heal you, right? Healing different parts of your brain, your body, your spirit. All of this goes into what you will do with your time. You will recover with your time. You will practice self love with your time.
Yes.
You will figure out what alcohol has been doing to your life and embark on a journey of reversing all that damage by creating new mindful habits. I've got the formula for it all. One habit can do three different things for you at once. That's the hard reset. How to deal with the feelings and emotions that we have been running from. Ooh, I love this. Guys, meditation. That is the answer. How to deal with emotions. The only way to deal with emotions is to feel them. Hiding from emotions keeps them inside your body, so you can't get rid of them. The only way to deal with your emotions is to understand them, make peace with it, understand what it is, make peace with what your role in it was, forgive yourself
And can
for.
I add too that if there's other therapies you need to be doing, like rapid eye movement therapy, which is called EMDR, because what I don't know the number, but it's a very high number of addicts that um, have had childhood trauma. It's an insane amount, usually from that age of 1 to 5. In between there, if there was some trauma that you went through, chances are you're an addict. And going through, and you probably don't even remember what that was that happened to you, but go and look for those avenues. Rapid eye movement therapy was my number one thing. Just look, or there's other things out there, but working on yourself and putting that work in and dealing with your trauma, and that sucks. It does suck. Or
Yeah,
emotion code, Reiki. There's energy work that you can do that you don't even have to talk to anyone about it. You can start healing that without even saying anything. You just have to look for it.
the cool thing about EMDR is, or rapid eye movement, is that, you want to know why it works, Crystal?
Because it goes to your left and your right brain and opens up the trauma.
Yes, absolutely. And that whenever our body is in motion,
Uh-huh.
when we're running, going for a walk, as a psychologist discovered this while she was working with alcohol dependent people back in the 90s, or no, back in the early 2000s, I think. So what happens is that when our body is in motion, naturally our eyes start sweeping the
Oh, yeah.
area in front of us, and that's to sweep for danger,
Mm.
because body's in motion now.
Well,
And
that makes sense.
because of the eye movement, our brain then lowers all the sensory activity in all the other areas of the brain, right? So because the brain says, hey, look, there's something happening, we need to focus on that. Literally, that's what's happening. And the rapid eye movement is scanning and scanning and scanning and scanning while you are moving, while you're running, or while you're going for a walk. And that's what then starts calming you down, because the activity in the amygdala is lower,
So
right?
amazing.
So that's some neuroscience for you. Um, the next part, fear of withdrawals, fear of social anxiety. I mean, I think we can touch on this. But guys, I was going to talk about meditation. The healing work, the true healing work, and why meditation is so important is because the fear and all the things that we run from, these are all things that are, each time we think about them, think of it like this. It's a little thing that's trapped in your body that wants to get out. And the only way it can get out is by you having to deal with it. Sorry. And each time you have a thought about it, that's when it's saying, hey, hello, do you have a couple of minutes? Can we talk about this so I can leave, please? And your brain just keeps swiping left and then it just never happens. So these emotions, we have to understand that the alcoholism or the excessive eating, the procrastination, the drugs, the excessive TV watching, these are all symptoms. These are symptoms of I don't want to say childhood trauma because it sounds cliche, but childhood trauma of some sort. It doesn't have to be like,
It doesn't have to be
crazy.
crazy trauma.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
can be literally that your mom was in the other room and you couldn't find her and you had this traumatic experience and your brain did whatever it did. I don't believe it has to be something crazy that happened. The crazier it is, the more you need help.
Well, let's paint a little picture, right? So the way memories work is that, let's say you, and I know you love animals, so Crystal, please forgive me for what I'm about to say, but imagine you come home from work and
Oh
your
no.
pet is there dead on the ground. Please, everybody, please forgive me. But imagine walking into your home, seeing your pet dead, throat slit. Let's make it a bit more graphic. Hang on.
God.
That moment where you lay your eyes and the chemical reaction that creates in your brain, the imprint that leaves, the gash that it leaves on your cells determines how much this is going to stay with you. So the intensity of something certainly has, and then the intensity of a moment certainly is directly related to how much you're going to remember it and how painful that experience will be to relive over and over again, right? So trauma, especially at a young age, our brains are like a sponge at that age, right? So anything that's happening is all getting stored in the gray matter of our brain. And because it happened so early on, it's almost impossible to detect as an adult. That's why we need to use meditation as the tool to go deep into our subconscious and uncover what it is that is causing the problem. I uncovered it. Turns out that it was shit with my mom when
Me
I was
too.
younger,
Me too.
right? So, and it's like that for most of us. At the end of the day, guys, the reason why we wanted to talk about this is because fear is what keeps us deeply rooted in inaction. It keeps us from taking the steps that we need to. What we don't realize is that the fear only lasts until you start doing something about it.
Yeah.
The moment you take the first step, it gets easier. And fear is good. Fear is good in the sense that it's needed to get our body moving, right? It's a response that we need to come up with for things that we are facing. And once we get in the habit of overcoming our fears, then you'll realize that sky's the limit, man. Because once you realize that nothing is really the end of the world anymore,
You're limitless.
then you're just limitless. You're happy and things just don't bother you the same way anymore.
Yeah.
And that's the God's honest truth.
It's freedom.
That the biggest change that I've noticed in myself since I not only since I got sober, but since I started meditating on a daily basis, is that the worst that could happen is that I get annoyed. I no longer have fits of rage. I used to throw things, break glasses and stuff out of anger, you know? All that's gone. I am now a calm, like my wave goes like this now. Before it was like that. You know, the biggest change that has happened is the same things that used to piss me off to a point where I would break things, exactly the same things. My brother, source of big annoyance for me. Now it's just different. He is the exact same way. He says the exact same things. He does the exact same things. They just don't bother me the same way they used to. The only thing that can change, that can make this kind of change, is meditation, especially because it strengthens your mind. It is like exercise for your brain and it makes you stronger. It gives you the ability to not react and absorb it all, think, and then choose your response. That is the best thing, the best skill that you can develop for yourself.
I
The
agree.
ability, like, even if imagine someone, your boss is looking down at you, you're 5'2" and they're 6'4", and they're like blah, yelling right in your face, and you're just like, okay, are you done now? Right? And not react. That is the level. If we can achieve a level like that, nothing will break you, nothing will phase you, and you'll be able to make choices from a clear, sound mind. And you will notice that you're often making the right decisions versus the wrong ones, and then facing the consequences. Guys, this was a very nice episode. I feel like we got a lot off and a lot out there. Crystal, do you have anything to add before we call it a night for tonight?
I don't think so. I think we covered it all, man.
So, guys, there you have it. There's a whole list of fears and some ways to overcome them. Eventually, we'd love for you to join
Yes.
Mindfully Sober, the Art of Alcohol Free Living. It's a community by the Hard Reset. It's free. It's where Crystal and I do all of our work, and we work with people just like you. And we have a lot of fun. We have games, challenges, and the most important thing is that together as a community,
Mhm.
we are building each other up, because that's what we need in this day and age. We need to, instead of knocking each other down, we need to build each other up. Imagine if Crystal and I can help 100 people to reach a point in their lives that they are happy, full of gratitude. Imagine all the lives that they will touch and positively impact, right? If we can all focus on building each other up, man, all of us would have a lot more of what we want in life. Don't you think, Crystal?
Yes. So
Right?
good.
All right, guys. So the link is in the description if you want to join us on Facebook. Otherwise, please drop a comment, drop a like, share. If you have someone in your life that you feel that could benefit from this episode, we'll launch upload the audio on Spotify afterwards. Please share this with them. Show them the Hard Reset. Show them my profile if you need to. Send me a message. Ask us questions. We're here to help you.
Yes.
All right,
Okay.
everybody. Thank you so
Thank
much
you,
for your time.
everyone.
We will see you guys next week. Take care. How do you close this?